States have election districts within their own borders in which representatives are elected to serve in the state legislature. The majority party of the state legislature often redraws these lines to ensure that their political party has the upper hand in the state legislature, in other words, the majority. And they do this by making sure that the majority of registered voters within a district are of their party, as voters will often cast votes in favor of the party of their choice, thus maintaining control of the state legislature. This is often referred to as gerrymandering. When the political party gains enough power, such as two-thirds majority in both houses of the state legislature, they can then make laws favorable to themselves and to their party, ignoring what the governor and the citizens of the state might desire. This can lead to a form of autocracy or dictatorship by the party, ignoring the Supreme Court ruling of one man, one vote. It thus becomes a one party, one vote, the ruling party. As an example of this, consider my home state of Maryland, in which the Democrats control two-thirds of both houses of the state legislature, the Senate and the House of Delegates. In the chart below, we see the election districts within the state of Maryland, where blue is the Democrats and red represents the Republicans. And we can see that the blue vastly outnumbers the red, meaning the Democrats have control of the state of Maryland. This is reflected if we look down in the right-hand corner. There we can see that the Democrats control 43 districts, the Republicans only 20, and that's a two-thirds majority. And we also can note both the state and the House of Delegates is a two-thirds majority in each case held by the Democrats, meaning the Democrats have absolute control of the state of Maryland. And they just about can do anything they want, and they usually do. In the 6th District of Maryland, the court has held what the Democrats were trying to do was illegal, and now the case is pending before the Supreme Court of the United States. Governor Hogan, a Republican governor for the state of Maryland, has suggested a nonpartisan committee to set these lines of the districts. Well, I can assure you the Democrats are not going to have anything to do with this, because it would require, I do believe, a state law in order for this commission to be created. And even then, there might be a certain amount of political influence within that nonpartisanship committee. So I really hold no hopes for that. I thought of a simple solution to keep the politics out of it, and that is to drop a grid over the state. Yet certain states, such as my state of Maryland, would have to have special rules, mainly because its western border is a jagged edge, and it borders Virginia and West Virginia, whose borders along that area would also be jagged. So each state would have to write up special rules concerning the topography of its borders. Even then, one must be aware of the fact that politicians will try to steer the rules in favor of their party. Now let's take a look at my idea, which involves a couple of simple rules, and by no means is this a surefire idea or solution. Well, this is my idea in the simplest terms possible. Notice at the top we have some colors which I will make use of. But now let's get down to facts. Number one, each grid is a square mile. That means to cover a district, we will have several grids. Now I'm going to show you some grids that I consider illegal. Mainly, grids cannot be at a diagonal. They must be side by side. And in all cases, the grids must be working towards a square. So let's see what I mean by this. I originally stated that grids must be side by side, they cannot be diagonal, and you always must work for a square. So this would be illegal because it is diagonal. And this would also be illegal because the third element over here does not make a square. you would have to move it either here where I show, or it would have to be up here, or up here, or up here. And once you move it here, let's say, then that means the next grid must be this one here in order to form a square as we show right here. As you can see here, we have a blue box in which there are 90 voters. Now the numbers surrounding the box go from 1 to 16, representing the number of voters in each one of the squares. Now if you require the box to be absolutely square, you are done at this point, because you cannot make anything that is not square. However, if you allow the squares to necessarily be square, would be a little different, then I'm going to show you what will happen if this is allowed. Now look up at the right hand corner up here at the top, and you'll see I have 114. That's our target number for voters in a district. So we have to get to 114 or very close to it. And you always have to pick the highest number. You can't pick two numbers to make up a number, if that number is available. So, in this case, we add 16 to 90, and we'll get 106. And when we add 8 to 106, we get 114. So that means the block number 16 and the block number 8 will have to be blue. And I show that in the next picture. Now we have a completed block, 114 delegates, and as you can see, the block with 16 is blue, and the block of 8 was also blue, making 114 voters in the district. Now here's another situation. In this case, I have 106 in this blue block, and I have 112 or 110 in this yellow, and 112 in this yellow, and I have 117 up here, and I have 120 over here. Now these two blocks have not been assigned. So if I assign a 1 to this block and a 7 to this block, let's see what happens. Well, if I add 7 to the 117, I got 24, 124. That's 10 away from 114. If I add 7 to the 112, I get 119. That's 5 away. But if I add 7 to 106, I get 113. So this block would go with blue, because this gets closer to 114 than either the red or the yellow. And if that's the case, then let's consider this block up here of X, which has a 1. When we add 1 to 117, we get 118. We add 1 to 120, we get 121. So 118 is closer to 114, so this X becomes a red box. Now suppose we had it the other way around, not the other way around, but suppose we still had X equals to 1 and Y were equal to 3. Then what would happen? Well, when we add 3 to 117, we get 120. That's 6 away. And we add 3 to 106, and that's 109. And that would be 6 away, or 5 away, I should say. But if we add 3 to 112, we get 115. So that's 1 more than 114. Therefore, this block would go, Y block would go yellow, indicating that it's closer to yellow, which is 115, closer to 114 than any of the other blocks. And the same again would hold for X with 1 would wind up going with this block here, 118. If we look below the center column, we'll see a blue and a red box indicating the number of Democratic and Republican voters, and to the right the total for the state of 1,670,000. Now if we divide that by 20, or I should say by 63, we will get 26,537 voters per district if we want to do it as the way I just described. If you look at District 27 and several districts around that one, you will notice the Democrats outnumber the Republicans 2 to 1, 3 to 1. But that's not the worst. Go over to District 43 and a few of the other districts in 40. 43 has almost a 15 to 1 ratio of Democrats over Republicans. Why? Well, they do this to stack the House of Delegates into their favor. That gives them 2 or 3 delegates in one district, and most of the voters will vote Democratic. Well, that's my take on gerrymandering. I hope you found it kind of interesting. So, until the next time, I hope you will subscribe, and I want you to have a nice day. Thank you, goodbye, and good luck.